November 20th, 2012. We'll open in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, you've created the moons and the stars. You've made us in your likeness. You sustain us every day. You give us good health. We thank you for this. And thinking of these things, how wonderful they are, we know that you'll be with us in this meeting to take care of these simple things. Help us to serve the residents of Tipton County like we should, putting their desires in front of our own. And we ask that you be with all the people in this county in the days ahead and draw them closer to you. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to welcome everybody. We don't have any high school students today. First thing on the agenda is our Prairie Breeze Wind Farm tax abatement. Hey, I'm not sure who's going to start out with.
Is this all right? Do you want me to come forward anywhere? Okay. My name is Jeff Bennett, and thank you for your time this evening. I am an attorney with Bingham, Greenbaum, Dahl in Indianapolis, and I'm here on behalf of Prairie Breeze. And I have with me Matt Heck, who's with UV and with the company, and he's here today to answer whatever questions you have about the proposed project, the company, and the plans that they're looking at. I just wanted to say a couple preliminary comments with apologies to anybody who's very familiar with what I'm about to tell you. There may be some here who aren't. The statutory process that this involves begins with a preliminary look tonight, and if you're so inclined, with a preliminary approval, which would simply begin the process that would ultimately lead to further decision making on your part and other parts, as I understand it, about a month from now, approximately. So there's nothing that you'll be doing tonight that can't be revisited, and I believe there still are some things to go through and to be looked at with this. I understand you have in front of you a proposed preliminary resolution that would accomplish just tonight's preliminary proceedings. And it's set up and it's framed so that even when signed, it was just the beginning of the process, and again, there's nothing there that can't be revisited if necessary at some point. Also, I think you have with you, and I have copies of all this if anyone needs any, the SB1 form that lays out a summary of the statement of benefits that the company has filed and prepared. And as I say, Matt will be able to answer any questions about that. So I think without any further ado at this point, I'll introduce Mr. Heck, and he can speak to the project.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Matt Heck, it's good to see everybody here again. Happy to just chat with you a little bit about UV Wind. We're a company out of Colorado, about 22 employees. We've been working in Tipton County here for a number of years and have a number of landowners signed up under agreement with measuring towers in the area. Been an active wind developer in the States. I have a 60 megawatt project that we did the development work on in southeast Nebraska. That went in operation in 2010. We're also in construction on a 30 megawatt project in Minnesota right now. UV as a group, we're on the wind side, North American wind side. There's a UV solar component, and also UV in Germany and other parts all around the world. As a group, we've developed over 2,000 megawatts of renewable energy, 1,000 megawatts of wind, 1,000 megawatts of solar. So we have extensive experience in the renewable energy business. Personally, I've been doing this kind of work for 11 years, and excited to be here tonight to talk about the project. It's in northwest Tipton County. I think everybody has a map showing the location. Essentially, 200 north is our southern boundary. The northern boundary is Howard County. West boundary is Clinton County. And then on the east side, about Sharpsville, just a little east of 31 is the general geographic area. And we've had great reception from landowners in that area. Like I mentioned, we have quite a few signed up. I think it's 50 some odd landowners with 150 some odd parcels under agreement now, and everybody's been very happy to see the project move forward. We just installed 2 additional wind measuring towers to continue to refine our knowledge of the wind resource in the area. We've conducted environmental studies. The Indiana bat's always a very sensitive topic in the state, and making sure that we're not going to have any impact on the Indiana bats. We've done our mist net surveys there, consulted with Fish and Wildlife Service and all the agencies appropriate. And we've kind of talked about this in the community a few times, and I know we'll continue to do so over the next couple months here. I think I'll keep it pretty brief and leave it open to questions.
The council have any questions?
Where are you at with the commissioners? Commissioner side? Have you been working on your proposal, or?
We have been in discussions with commissioners, and I guess, Jane, I don't know if you'd like to give a summary of where, or Phil, where we're at in our discussions with you guys.
Well, yesterday we did approve a resolution that was basically just an affirmation of our approval and support for the project. We have not signed an economic development agreement, but I announced yesterday that UV has offered us $700,000 in economic development payment, and payable over a course of 4 years, and then $11,000 per megawatt over 52 megawatts. And just to help you as a comparison, the EON project is over 100 megawatts. So if you pencil that out, whereas they paid us about 1.2 million, this would be about 1.33 for about the same, about the same megawatts. And they anticipate construction is at July or 2015.
2014 is what we're hoping for, but I think we're asking for some flexibility through 2015.
So that's what they have offered to be able to be in the county. And then they would be subject to permit fees with the Plan Commission to, at 50 megawatts, I believe it's $107,500 with a $20,000 Board of Zoning Appeals application fee. And then, of course, anything over that 50 megawatts is $1,750 per megawatt that goes into the general fund. So I'm thinking EON's permit fees at 100 megawatts, you realize over $200,000 in the general fund in permit fees. So it is I would call it a permitted use with the stipulation that it's with a conditional use permit through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So in our zoning ordinance, we permit wind towers in the county with the approval of the Board of Zoning Appeals as a conditional use permit.
Anybody else have any questions for Matt? If the council's okay, what we did the last time, we had a special meeting of the foundation building, and I kind of wanted to poll the council members to see if that's the step we want to take for the first time.
I understand that, the preliminaries here before us, but if you go back to our annexation resolution, it says it's to be submitted, and then we have a review committee that makes recommendation before the preliminary. That's our process.
And part of that review committee is someone from the Economic Development Commission. We really have anyone who would meet in that group.
Sure we do.
Well, it is mostly with reference to whatever information you would have learned from discussions with the company and so forth. And the SB1 form, I think, is at this early stage the primary vehicle for giving that kind of information. The language that you're looking at here, particularly in some of the recitals at the beginning, and now you pointed to now therefore part and a number of paragraphs after that, much of that comes directly out of the statute that governs this process and permits the granting of tax abatement. But certainly at this, as I said earlier, this is really just the beginning process. Almost one of the first words at the top, as you'll see there, is preliminary. So there's nothing that you're doing here that can't be refined or revisited later. And I would think, and I haven't been privy to all your conversations, but I would suspect if it's typical, and I think it is, that whatever you've learned from the company, in particular from the SB1 form that's in front of you, would be the primary vehicle of information that you have gotten to this point. Certainly if there's another committee meeting to be held, and ultimately a public hearing, and ultimately Q&A at that event, all of that goes into the process of satisfying yourself for a final resolution with any more information that you think you might need to have.
And that's the process we follow.
Did I answer your question?
And then, with it being preliminary, I'm not too worried, but I would like it rewarded. But it doesn't put the council in a liability situation, and that can be discussed later. Another question I had is the page that has the position title, the breakdown of health insurance, paid vacation, paid sick leave, 401k match, it's empty, and it doesn't seem to have any use. Does that page need to be there, or should it be filled out?
There's nothing there.
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
It's
The
page
application.
5 of what we have in the application. The page before that, you talk about your site supervisors, your technicians.
Oh, the application?
And are there not benefits included?
Is it
with
the
those
SB1 form you're looking at?
It's in your application,
It's not a yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
the
know what you're talking
application.
about.
I don't have it, I'm sorry.
You're showing that we can see a possibility of what up to
Right,
8
thanks, Greg.
employees.
Would be better just to leave this out. Just leave it out.
Not included in this.
That's the application. Speak to what she's asking.
And then you've got the next page too that goes into the other benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I think that,
You have your prior page where you have your site supervisor, your technician, site service administrator. Are there not any benefits in your packages? Are they not paid health insurance and type of benefits there, 401ks?
I think this just might be an oversight on our end, and I think certainly we
Maybe
could
we
build
get
this in
corrected.
prior to the next meeting.
Okay, and then are these positions full-time, part-time?
The positions on the previous page under 5 with economic impact, we would expect those to be primarily full-time positions, except perhaps on the admin side.
Okay. And this is a lot, and I'm sorry, I could not make the 2 meetings you had. I work evenings, and I
That's
wasn't able to
quite all right.
get off, I tried, and I would have asked these then. When we worked with the other windmill project, one of the things we asked that was in the resolution was those parcels. You remember that? That the parcels were listed, so we knew exactly what we were doing the ERAs on. And I'd like to see that again in this.
meets and bounds description of all the parcels?
They had each parcel in which you were acquiring, because those are the ones we're doing the ERAs on.
Right, I think, still now, while we have a significant amount of land under agreement, we're still in the field in discussions with additional
With
landowners.
additionals.
And so a complete list is probably not what we would have at the current time. However, we can certainly provide all the recorded memorandums to date and show them who's currently under agreement.
So this project then, to begin with, how many turbines are you planning on?
We would be, so our application is between 50 and 150 megawatts. And so if you're using the same size machine as over in the Northeast with Wildcat, it's on the order of 31 to 94 machines. The machine type has not been decided yet. I think that's probably likely the smallest machine we would use. Potentially a larger generator and would reduce the turbine numbers. But right now, that General Electric machine is really probably the best machine in this wind resource.
Would it make sense to the council, I'd be happy to try to address your comments and maybe submit a revised preliminary resolution for everyone's consideration, if you think that would be helpful.
Well, this is just part of the,
Application.
yeah.
Right. I was just referring to the first question she had.
Oh, she's going to.
Sure,
If you're inclined to, take a vote this evening, then I could submit the revised draft resolution afterwards, if that's something you'd like us to do.
it could be restated, whereas the council is considered the statement submitted by Prairie Dog and has determined that the area qualifies.
That's exactly what I did.
Cut out, just cut out that middle section there, and
Yes.
that would be fine.
Okay.
And I would like to see the schedule attached. This refers to 10-year abatement, and it would be nice to see that schedule.
Suzanne, they gave a battlefield tonight at the meeting.
Okay, well,
Well,
yeah, not everyone got notice at the meeting, unfortunately.
You want to look at it.
Well, it would be nice, I did view it quickly online today when I went home. It'd be nice to have it with the resolution. That's all I'm asking.
But they gave it at the meeting, and
That's all I have. No more questions. Oh, I did have one other question. I know that you're wanting to pass these resolutions before the end of the year, and there's a penalty, a great penalty in regards to some type of benefit that you would receive. Is that true if these are not passed before the end of the year? You should elaborate just a little bit.
Sure. As an industry right now, our tax credits expire at the end of this year. And there's a lot of uncertainty moving forward with what the industry looks like without a tax credit or with an extension of the tax credits. There's a lot of work going on with the federal government right now in deciding how to handle the industry's tax credits. We're hearing anything from a 1-year extension to a 5-year phase out of the tax credits. Generally, it seems like a tax credit extension will happen. One of the challenges that we deal with on a timing perspective is if it does happen, say, for 2 years through the end of 2014, we need to be in a position where we can construct them. If it happens just for 1 year, there's also a chance we would try to move forward on construction of the project next year, which would be a very, very tight timeline. So that's why we are moving forward with the process as aggressively as we can, so that if these credits get extended and buyers would thus follow, trying to take advantage of lower energy prices, we would expect to try to build quickly.
Is there a deadline for that application? Do you have to apply for that credit in January? Is that?
No.
Credits expire December 31st.
Credits expire December 31st this year, the current setup. So if it's renewed, the mechanism is to have a project online by whatever the expiration date would be. So if that expiration date is December of next year, we would have to order equipment right away, get a contractor to work with to be able to do the construction. There's a whole series of other things we would need to do. And in order to move forward on a lot of those things, we need to make sure that we had the county support prior to doing that.
All right, well, thanks, Matt. Any other question?
I have two questions. One is, are you negotiating with the county for a road agreement similar to what Eon did, where they came in and upgraded the roads and then put them back to the same level?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have used Eon's agreements as a template. We've been talking with the commissioners as well as Larry on the structure of that agreement. It looks very similar. They're still in the works on that.
Okay. The second question I have is, would you need to build a maintenance and control facility somewhere close to the proposed wind farm?
We would, absolutely. And we would include that in our permit application to the BZA, would be the maintenance facility.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
There were two things that I was going to interject. When we did the previous one, and when we've done some of our applications for abatements, when we come into this meeting, just receiving a lot of the information tonight, we have accepted the application formally and sent it to the committee. The committee met at some time that was convenient with whoever the members are that are appointed at the time, reviewed the material, came back for a report. We could have a special meeting before our December meeting so that we could do a preliminary and do that at that time so that we wouldn't miss a deadline at the December meeting if it was timely that needed to be done before the end of the year. So we wouldn't circumvent what we've done in the past. That process would still be there, and we would get a review of the material and have time to make adjustments and have the committee look at it. I'm in favor of that now. And the second thing I'd like to look at, and I think this would be the committee, would be nice if they looked and reviewed this to begin with. But when we did the last wind farm, I said I think we should consider a 7-year abatement instead of a 10. So Umball did create comparisons, and over the life of the abatement, over 10 years, it's about $620,000 difference. The county would receive $620,000 more with a 7-year abatement than we would with a 10. So I think it's something that should be considered. I know that everything says 10, 10, 10, but when we go way back historically and look at, this is a unique project because it's all capital and, very little jobs. And we usually had looked at companies that were coming in and going to put some investment in capital and hire 20, 30, 50 employees. And so we kind of had those graded. The EDC had a form and gave points and tried to assign values. So we had that to work with. So I know this doesn't cost us anything in services. We're not having to supply sewers and things like that and make it work, which is a nice thing from an investment standpoint. But I just don't know. I think we should look at a 7 and a 10 when we do this. So.
What is is there an estimated life span for the windmill?
Certainly, we'll model it and we'll expect a project in the 20 to 25-year range. I think the reality of the industry has been that wind turbines that were built in the early 1980s are still operating 30 years later. And so it's, the way you get investors comfortable is if you're looking at, say, a 20-year financial model. But the technology to this point has shown that it typically lasts a lot longer than that.
I just mentioned one thought that occurred to me as I was listening to the gentleman. One thing that, and maybe you've already considered this, but I know that the statute requires a certain amount of days' notice for the final hearing. I think it's 10.
It has to be advertised.
So whatever timeframe you're looking at, that obviously would have to be taken into account. And as to the duration of the abatement, again, this is, what you would do tonight really is preliminary, and anything, all those things are things that could be revisited and reviewed during this process as you go forward, so.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, see if I have this correct. It's been suggested that we have a special meeting in the county council to review and recommend the application, go over it the first time, and then have a review committee as a second step, right?
With a review committee at the.
If we accept it tonight, we accept the application, because it was presented to us tonight as the first time we've seen the application, the resolution, the financial data. A lot of the council, this is the first time they've seen that. So if we formally accept the application and then let the review committee look at it, we need to set a date that we can advertise, or we can have a special meeting if we're going to, and do, if we plan to have the resolution, the preliminary resolution at that special meeting. We could have the final at our December meeting, and the timeframe in there's got to match up so we can make it work.
And at that, the meeting, the special meeting is when the committee, then the review board would make the recommendation.
Okay. Everybody on board with that? Anybody want to make a motion that, to accept this application tonight in its preliminary form with the schedule that Brad just articulated?
I make a motion that we accept their application, and that we set a public hearing for the preliminary prior to the final declaration.
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Appreciate it.
And we established a date.
Yeah,
We're going to be there.
yeah.
People want to be there, you can be there.
Sure, so you know what the date of that?
Somebody else
That's what we're getting
Yeah.
at this,
We'll set a date, so we
If we meet on the 18th of December, so if you back your 10 days out of that,
and always have to be the first week of December there.
yes, the first week of December, the 3rd through the 7th, somewhere in that time frame. The 3rd is Monday, the 4th would be Tuesday, in 2 weeks from today.
You want to set December 4th? Tuesday?
It's the third month.
Are you better on the third?
The 3rd?
I'm off on the third. I'm not.
3rd sounds better.
Third's better.
Okay, December the 3rd then will be your,
Oh, good.
That's a Monday, December 3rd.
yeah.
And the committee could meet before that and have
I
something.
mean, now do you want the committee to be the same as we did for the windmill, which was myself, Mike, here. Right here, and we had,
Steve.
Steve. Over.
Yeah. You'll add that up, that's the good,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll-
Thank you.
And do we want to go to the foundation again? This will be a couple 5 minutes or so.
Did we have a very
We had a good turnout. We had a good turnout. That was the one we had in May of last year. We had a good turnout.
If they need to project anything.
Looks like we've already got one project behind us, so.
We'll-
Different side of the county.
We'll set it tentatively after the foundation. I'll check it tomorrow, make sure it's there.
What time?
7 o'clock, is that okay? 7 PM, December 3rd? That's good, county foundation.
Well, that sounds good.
If I could ask, just so that I understand, presumably depending on what happens at that December 3rd meeting, then there might be a second public hearing for the final decision after that?
So if we have, when we have that meeting, then we'll, if the recommendation from the review committee comes back, which it should at that point, then we'll make a decision on the preliminary. So then at our regular meeting in December, so you'll have it done before the end of December.
okay.
If it passes, I know you're sitting there sweating it, aren't you?
No, I was just trying to understand what the dates were, because usually the final meeting is the
It'd
public
be our
hearing.
last meeting, which is the 18th, is that right?
Yes.
Of December.
Okay.
Okay.
What time?
It's nice.
So,
That's a good time.
Yeah. That was the part I didn't know about, so that helps.
And for December 3rd, as Brad, you mentioned a presentation, sort of more formal PowerPoint kind of thing. Would you like me to put something like that together that has more, a little more information on some maps?
Yeah, because we would advertise that as a public hearing,
Okay.
and then whatever you're able to, say and present. And then from the 3rd until we meet at our normal meeting on the 18th, we can get feedback and be able to, be better able to make a decision. So
Okay.
anything, and they do have a projector and then all the work, so.
I think that this changes so much of our county and the way the county looks. And our thoughts, the prior was that the more we're open and transparent, let the community know this is going on, these changes could take place, and it allows them to be part of the process.
Okay. Okay.
Since I live in Prairie Township, I'll try to get the people who have signed, to come to the meeting.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they just use them. Maps, isn't just colored in parcels.
Okay.
We can just remind you that and see.
So you know.
Information, but it did outline, so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move along to the next agenda item is the Maximus report. Jackie has something for us, I suppose.
Not a lot this week. We've been working on some negative fund balances. There were a few funds that had negative balances in them. One of them was a payroll issue. This is the same report I did yesterday. Okay. It stemmed from when 911 combined and one person didn't get changed in the payroll software to pull from the right fund, and so it came from the wrong fund. We've made that payroll adjustment. So the old 911 funds are at zero. They should be dormant and they're good to go. And we know payroll changes were made inside because it only happened twice and we got it correct. We've been reviewing Operation Pullover, and I've spoke with Sheriff Moses, and he's gotten me some information, and he brought me some more information this evening. It's one of the funds in the negative balance, and it appears what's happened, and we're going to verify this, and I'm working very closely with the sheriff to get this established and determine what we need to do. But what appears has happened is when payroll is processed, the FICA and Medicare are coming out of the Operation Pullover Fund, but when it's being submitted for repayment, we're getting all of the grant money, but the grant money has been submitted as full wage, as gross wages, and so each time we're running short by those FICA wages, FICA and Medicare wages.
So are they pulling our match out of that fund then?
Yeah,
They're not separate.
currently, and so we're gonna look and see how much it is, and then the sheriff, he can have less hours and the FICA come out of it, and that's something that we're gonna weigh together, and then he's gonna go to the commissioners and you and make a recommendation on how we need to handle that, but that, we believe is what's causing that fund to go into the negative. Which is the normal thing in payroll. When you process someone's payroll out of a fund,
the system will automatically calculate the FICA and PERF, the county's match, and automatically pull it in to the EFT, and that's what's happening. It's an automatic thing. So, but we found it, and we're pretty sure, John and I looked at it yesterday, and we're pretty sure that's what it is, but we're gonna come down with some exact numbers from each blitz. The TC Wind Farm Expense Fund had a 90-cent negative balance in it, and it was simply when they quieted money to pay an attorney bill last year. 90 cents was not put, it went in as 09 cents instead of 99 cents, and so the auditor's office simply cut a check for 90 cents out of the one fund and quieted it into the other to zero it out. There's two funds there. One holds the money, and the other one's, they move the money into it and then write a check out of it. The general fund, the general drain improvement fund is showing a large negative balance, and this is stemming somewhere from settlement, which is what I am now working on. I was able last Friday and yesterday to gather some information I need to review the spring of last year's settlement, the fall of last year's settlement, and this spring. And somewhere along the line, the money hasn't gotten put into the improvement fund the way it is. We've spoken with the surveyor, and he's going to provide us with a list of how much should be attributed in each drain, and we're working with him to make sure that we get those monies between the maintenance fund and the improvement fund. It's there, it's just in the wrong place, we believe. So he's getting me some information, and that will be the next thing I do. He's supposed to get it to me this week. That'll be the next thing I do as soon as I zero out the settlement funds. There's a negative fund of the Security Protection Fund, which is money that's brought in by the county recorder, and she was paying a service supplier of sort out of it. It went into the red, it was caught, they stopped paying it, and it's currently in the IT department, that line item to pay. I spoke with both the recorder and Bill Steen, and we've come up with a solution. He has enough in his line item in county general to, what we'll basically do is void those checks that have went out and process them through the county general fund, which will survive that fund back into a balance, and he has plenty of money in his appropriation line there to correct that mistake. So that pretty much is taking care of the negative funds. I went through the revenue for county general. There were a couple of revenues that were put. It was the seeded homestead credit money from Edit, and it was deposited into county general instead of into the seeded homestead credit money, which goes into a fund and then is dispersed with the other property tax dollars. Those have been removed from the general fund. They are out and where they're supposed to be, and they'll be distributed with the other tax dollars in December. 40,000 was seeded homestead credit. It was just one, and it wasn't in your July numbers. It happened after July. So it wasn't in your July budget numbers. It happened since then, and it's been corrected. I'm currently looking at the review and reviewing the adjustments and the transfers that have been made in county general. There have been some places that we've reversed some transactions where cash was receipted in, and then we transferred it from the cash line item into an appropriation, which zeroed out that cash, and we're backing those out and correcting those. Those were small monies that happened to. It's where people got money in, and instead of receiving it in and requesting an additional appropriation, it was getting transferred out of that line. The office is, the new accounts payable person is well aware that she can't do that, that it all has now to come to the council and be appropriated, whenever they get grant money or their special project monies. I have 102 hours left on the contract. We also, I hadn't brought to you guys, and I apologize, I didn't mail the spreadsheet out. We've corrected the wheel tax surtax. I reported that 2 weeks ago. and that has been corrected. Commissioner Harper asked for an additional bit of information, and I was able to gather that and get it to her today. She wanted to know how much each unit was supposed to get and how much they'd gotten. So I figured that for her, and there was a couple of units that got too much and a couple that got too small. And so I prepared a spreadsheet for the auditor to use when he does his December 1st distribution that will then clear those out, and everybody will be right on the penny where they should be with their wheel tax, surtax. But that was $200,000 that got dispersed last week or the week before last that had been sitting in the funds, not dispersed to all the local units. And I think that's all I have. Anybody has questions of me?
I have a question, Jackie. Back up on the, F there, with your negative balance in the security protection fund with the recorder. Okay, is this because they were being paid out of that security fund when in fact we had budgeted? Because we budgeted
Yes.
in IT $23,000
Yes.
some dollars.
It was, yeah, it's that
But we've
aptitude
been-
solutions or
Aptitude
whatever.
Solutions.
Right,
We've been
and
paying 12.
in February and March, there was about $1,700. Yeah, it was about $1,700, maybe $2,000. It was about $2,000 that was paid out that should have come out of the county general budget because there's enough in that line item. He's still got like $7,000
Well,
in
I
there.
had looked at that because with that telephone bill being short, and
Right.
that was, so that is going to absorb that money.
It's going to absorb part of it,
It's gonna
yeah.
absorb it.
Yeah, and so, and that'll get the security protection fund, I think will have $300 or $600. I looked at too many numbers the last couple of days, but it's a small amount, but it will go in the red, I mean in the black, when we make that correction for those two that in February and March that went out.
So 102 hours, how far is that taking you? How many hours are you working on?
It depends on the week. There was a time when I wouldn't, the first couple of weeks I work a lot on 40 reimbursements, and so I don't. It depends on each week, how much, what I can work. So, but,
I don't know if that would be maybe to a month or 2 months.
well, it's 100 hours. So it would be, that's, in a normal working sense, it would be not quite 3 weeks worth of work,
Thanks. Great.
full-time work.
Have all the taxes, everything is in here, filled out monthly according to where it should be.
What, wheel tax, surtax, or the other,
Just
catches?
catch it.
Yeah, he's caught up on those.
Everything's, and your Form 22s are all done, everything's.
He's just,
To this point.
yeah, all the income tax monies and the wheel tax, surtax are now up to date.
That's a big plus. I'm sure the units are very thankful.
I know the highways was ecstatic.
I'm anxious to see our report is how that highway is done.
It was $170,000 that went to the highway. I'll email you that, I think I have your email address, I'll email you that spreadsheet that I emailed Jane and Greg today that shows what.
I'd love to see it too.
Sure.
Whoever can afford it.
Shows what everybody's gotten, what they should have gotten. And if you open it up, you can see the individual ones, and it'll show the last amounts in that last one. Because I've got it shrunk.
Now, in regards to the excise, wheel tax, the lottery, I don't know if anything's been done on the lottery, but we always cut off around the end of October. So
We have discussed that, and Greg is pulling those down off of the site, and it will cut off the end of October for the December settlement.
Just wanted to
Yeah, he's pulling those sheets down so that we know, we can put those in the right unit and, yeah. And that's the state's recommendation that it runs only through October.
Any other questions for Jackie? Thank you very much. See what the stars is on.
I know it's double elimination. I'll write down and get those numbers for you.
Hey Scott, I have a question. In the commissioner meeting yesterday, when Jackie was telling everybody what she just had told you guys? Jane had made the comment that she had a ledger full of errors and stuff that she had found. Would that not be advantageous to give to Jackie so she's not wasting her time trying to find stuff since Jane's already found it, where she can be working those additional hours on something else?
I know that I've had ledgers in the past. I asked to try to get one for this meeting, so I didn't get it. But I think when I've identified things postings that I thought were wrong, I just tried to make an email. Well, you still see those, no corrections happen. So once they're identified, and I know Beth, and I think Suzanne's done some, because once you've worked with it a little bit, you're able to see those. Well, I'd like to do it. We don't need to pay Jackie, in my thoughts, to make the corrections. And when we first discussed how to do all this, I think Maximus's thought was, or Jackie's, that she would identify the errors, and she wasn't going to make all the entries.
I don't make any entries.
See, so she'll find them. So what I think would be beneficial, it doesn't matter who it is from the auditor's office that would have the ability to make the keystrokes and make it happen. I think it could be as simple as when we have our budget session, we shine the stuff on the wall, and a couple of us could come in on any day and get a group together and put our information in and say, shine it on the wall, whether it's Greg or one of the assistants, and say, you know, here's a posting. For instance, I found one time where the jail budget had paid the gas bill for the courthouse. So if I saw that, let's get in there and make that reverse happen. Jackie doesn't need to do that, but we could do it here as a group, and whatever ones I had or anybody else had could be done. So whether it's an hour or two, at some morning or some afternoon, the free help could do that.
And that was my statement. I need to see those, because if I know they're there, that you guys have corrected those or you found them, then I can skip that line item. But I've been challenged to find the corrections that need to be made in the county general line items, and so I have to look at them line by line. If there are some out there that you are aware of, I'm asking that you send them so I can pass by them, and I'm not wasting your time and money on looking at something you've already found.
I know I have personally have emailed them more than once.
Not to me.
No.
But I'm talking about the work I'm doing, not getting it done in there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, I've been asked to look at the line items by the Board of Commissioners and find the problems in the ledgers. And if I had the ones that you have found me corrected, I can skip over those. I don't have to investigate those when I see they're wrong. Because then I have to investigate it to see if it is or isn't a good entry. That's what I'm saying. If I have a list of those, I can skip over them instead of spending my time looking for them.
My very first suggestion when we started the whole process, I said, why don't we print out everybody's current year? You take the treasurers over to the treasurer. You take the clerks up to the clerk. You take the sheriffs to the sheriff. Let those individuals look at their own detail. Because if the sheriff looked at his jail budget and saw he was paying $1,000 for gas, $1,000 for gas, $4,000, and he had two in the same month, Chuck does it at dispatch and EMA. So the department heads, to me, it is the first line of defense, and they can get it to you.
And I don't disagree.
So
that's a great step, except I've been challenged to do it, and in order to do it, I need those changes out there.
But how long have you been doing this?
I haven't. I just started on county general.
Okay, but when did you start working for the county under contract?
Well, I wasn't looking for that under contract.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what was given to me just recently, the challenge.
I know, but when this whole thing was started, we knew we had general fund problems.
Right.
And I said, send it out to all the department heads and let them hash through it, because why do I need to look at the jail? I can, and anybody else could, but seriously, every department head walk through their own. The revenue piece, maybe no, but the expenditure, yes. So right now, tomorrow, we could send out everybody's report through November the 20th. And if there's anything in there that you see is not right, you don't have to mess with it. And every department head's gonna be a lot better at finding those mistakes than I would, or the commissioner, or anybody else. And then email them to Jackie, that's fine. But I'm just saying, the stuff, and I've emailed it back and forth, and it's been months ago, and I really have stopped looking at the ledger, because you just pull your hair out. So if we're not gonna sit down and make the corrections, because there's been a lot of action that the council's done, there's been transfers, I know it's starting to be looked at, but there's been a lot of things happening, and it doesn't show up in the ledger. So from last month and the month before. So if the new stuff's not gonna happen, so it's not that, I don't think we need to pay you to do it. I'm just saying, the front line really is the
That's what I'm
department.
saying is, I don't want to waste your time and your money against something that people have found or can find, because there are other things out there that need looked at. But this was the direction that was set in the priority that I was to do.
Has anybody sent anything to any department heads and asked them to review their expenditures? But to me, that is the most common, common thing that should, I mean, that makes sense.
We come over and, well, previous to Greg, we would come over and ask for a printout.
Right.
Lee and I, because Lee would come over and say, you know, she's really good with the budget. She knows what she's looking for, and she would find things, you know, that were misappropriated. That was prior to Greg, you know, and so.
But I would feel better sitting down and keystroking them in, because that is what is not happening.
One thing I might suggest is if Greg, if you'll do that tomorrow, send out to all the department heads, or ask them to do that. And I think in addition to that, we need to get, it sounds like, Jackie, when you say you're being challenged by the Board of Commissioners.
Right, the commissioners
So if
said
we need,
the
so we
Board
need
of
to get Phil
Commissioners
and Jane
set
on
a
board.
priority of the
And
things
do you
that I
understand
was
what
to
she's
do.
saying? And so are you still going to challenge her to go and do these things that you asked her to do in the past, knowing that it's going to take most of that money?
Oh, no, it's not going to take most of that money. I didn't say that at all. Nobody said that. I'm just saying that it's taking some of that money by me having to look through it when there are things out there that are already there that I could bypass. It's
But
not-
it just makes sense to ask the user, which is the person that creates a claim and turns it in. And a long time ago, it was as simple as looking at the claim and understanding the code, and it wasn't posted to the right place. So the elected official could see that they didn't turn in that claim and make the correction available. But the correction has to happen then. So,
Brad, a lot of the things that I found, I just flagged, you know, that there's an error here. So when I was asked to email them, and I explained this to Greg yesterday after the meeting, that for me to sit down and write out what it is that is wrong, I can verbalize it in a tenth of the time if I'm just sitting with that person and just say, this is what happened. And he, you know, he saw what I was seeing and he agreed that it would be a lot easier. So that was my reluctance to spend all the time to write out everything about, you know, page number this and this line and this is what happened and this is what's wrong. The other thing is things that happen in the commissioner meeting as far as actions and motions about transfers and things like that are not done. They're not followed through and done. So that would be something that, you know, no one would know but us. And
Well,
so,
if it's in the minutes, and that's why we're going through the minutes to make the list. I'm not, the county's gonna do that.
Well, having heard that, Greg, would it be better if the department heads came in and viewed it with you, like Jane, and they told you right there, as opposed to submit it in writing?
There has to be some kind of a record so that Jackie knows what has been done, so that we don't mess up the process that she's involved in, I think. I don't want to create more problems for the whole system.
If every department had, you know, if a budget was ran and every department had looked at their budget, it's not only the expenditures that are wrong, like Jane said, there's a lot of things that aren't done. There were things where where an entry was made, money was received in, and then it was transferred out of that line item. The department heads aren't gonna see that. They don't recognize that. So, but if the department heads wanna look at, I mean, they should be asking for their budgets all the time anyway, to make sure they still have enough in their line items to make their expenditures. So if they wanna go through and look at all those expenditures and turn it into Greg's office, you know, that would be great. And I won't look at expenditures other than the transfers and the appropriations that were made in those expenditure areas.
Sounds like a plan. Don't you have a comment?
Well, I was just gonna agree with Brad. I think if each department head would take it upon themselves to get that at the end of every month, then you could find those today instead of waiting till tomorrow and 6 months or whatever. And that was one of the suggestions that I made to Mandy when she first was auditor. You know, balance with every department every month. And it's pretty easy to do if you do it on a monthly basis. And that would alleviate transfer problems, that would alleviate most everything that Jackie's gonna be looking for. So I would start that today. You know, I would get on that today.
And that's why I didn't understand why we didn't do that when we first started. You've been here almost $30,000 worth.
But I haven't spent $30,000.
No, but the
on
general
this.
fund, the people in the general fund could have been doing that for a month or 6
Absolutely.
weeks. It's not like now we gotta do it tomorrow because you're waiting on it, because you're spending time looking at it, and they could have looked at it. So, it just, as a department head, I was always under the assumption, and this is the way I operated, when I turned a claim in, and I know dispatch does this because Chuck has a spreadsheet, he puts the claim in that line. So his set of books should match the auditor's, and if it doesn't, why is it and what happened, and make the correction. So
The
it's
same
not that
thing should-
difficult.
The same thing should be with general drain or drain department or anything else. Whoever's in charge of that should know where that goes and it should be in there. If you're looking at each other's books on a monthly basis, you're not gonna have any of this problem.
You see, but also, we had a lot of difficulty because there were claims that were being processed and paid that were not signed.
True.
So the person that's responsible for that department does not know that that claim happened. So money coming out of that budget without their knowledge, potentially. So we said, you know, you've got to sign the claim, because that's the only way that you've got it in.
And that has been rectified.
Yeah. But that would make an error, because you wouldn't realize that money was spent.
Money came out of your budget. But if you looked at it every month, no. So you'd come and say, why did you take this out of my?
Yeah.
I have an issue where I paid a bill in December, and then get paid till January of the next year, which I took it out of my budget for December. And I caught it because I take care of mine too. I'm like Chuck, I got a spreadsheet. When I make that claim, we go in, subtract it out, and then we get something from the auditors, making sure every fund balance for what they have. If not, then we go back and see what the differences is.
Well, I think it would be extremely beneficial to do what you said in this round. I mean, we have a former auditor, we have Beth, clerk treasurer, and you've been experienced in the ledger, to sit down and make these corrections. But someone from either Greg or Mayor and staff. I don't feel like
But
we
his
need to
accounts payable
mess with
person
that.
is able to make those corrections if she just has them, if she just has the list. But she can't stop everything she's doing and spend hours all at one time. She has to keep what's going on right now current.
But the
I see
corrections.
Suzanne shaking her head. She can't get behind on the claims that are sitting there now.
And I understand what you're saying. You can't be, you have to be organized and you need to streamline your approach. You can't have 5 or 6 different people throwing things at you or at the claims person, do this, and then it just, things become a mess all over again.
Right.
Well, last year, during our 3-day budget cycle, we spent almost a whole day here making corrections on the fly because we didn't have good data to work with. So we all spent a full day and probably caught 90% of it maybe, I don't know.
But those were requested corrections. did they actually get done?
I think that's the key, is that even some of the most current things that are happening don't show up yet. So if it's a time issue, it might be, but I think sometimes when you're in the office and people are coming in and you gotta service a window, or you gotta do this or that, I don't know who can make the corrections as far as the entries, but I just think we're gonna have to dedicate some time and say, this is what we're gonna do. It has to happen sometime, and the end of the year is coming pretty quick. So if you want it to roll over and then we'll still mess with it, or do you want to sit down and tackle it now? So,
Jack, the corrections that you've seen that you wrote up for 2011 that you found so far?
I didn't do any 2011.
Okay.
We didn't make any, the Board of Accounts recommended we do nothing to the 2011 appropriations and expenditures because that year was closed.
But there was monies that was found. The Cadget monies were not all received in, right? Were those all corrected?
Yes,
Where
all of the
the
Cadget
money is
money,
all accounted for?
all of the revenue in the Cadget.
It's in the right place?
Yes.
Okay, and those corrections were all made?
Yes.
Okay, that's the big one right there.
You got DVR
Do I have a DVR?
for Dance with the Stars?
I'll call home and tell him the PVR. Mine's a PVR,
Oh.
because it's on a regular TV, not an HD.
Jackie, in your thoughts, how healthy is the general fund right now in comparison to what we have left to spend on the budget?
I have not ran a budget status and looked at what's left to pay and what's in the fund. I'll be glad to do that for you and get you some information on that. I ran a ledger just the other day, and I just haven't compared where the appropriations are. There's an account summary report in there that's just a few pages as opposed to the combined ledger that breaks that all down pretty easily, and it wouldn't take very long to look at what's there to spend. And
There's been a lot of moving around, and I just wondered. We have
actually, and again, I mean, it's been a long time since I knew what the operating was from now to the end of the year, but there's over $1 million sitting in county general, I believe, and we're not to the tax collection there have been no advance draws or anything on tax collection. So to me, that would prove to be okay. That's a pretty good cash operating balance at this point in time, and we pulled the revenue out that was not supposed to be there from Cadget, from this homestead CEDAT money. Those revenues are all out. But in the same manner, we corrected some revenues that went back in. They were there, but when we made that adjustment and moved it from the revenue account line to an expenditure account line, it took that revenue out, and so it was out of the cash balance. And while they were small, it's, small adds up, and so there have been, I don't know, half a dozen of those. But the big revenue that should be there, I went through all of the revenues and looked to see how much had come in and where they had come from, and then I was going to try and compare it to a 2-year-old budget and where the revenue was, the 2-year-old annual report, and where the revenue was, because it shouldn't change that much on a year-to-year basis, to kind of make you feel better that there is, that the money appears to be in the right places. And, that's how I found these ones that were in the wrong place. We had a court one that came in that should have went into the different individual court funds that go to the state, fines and forfeitures and those. Those were received into county general. Those have been taken out. I mean, there was quite a few revenue changes that we ended up having to do. But I still believe that the county general, I'm pretty sure, is at $1 million right now. Greg, do you remember? Have you looked lately?
Okay. thank
But I'll
you.
be glad to look at that for you, Suzanne.
Greg, you've heard.
Okay.
You have any thoughts about, you've heard that the suggestion that the department heads or having a few people
I
that
think
council.
having department heads take a look at their own budgets and see if they find anything and report that back to us for correction would be a good idea. We do have, the folks that are in our office are in the midst of several different projects that have to be done yet this year. One is converting all of the accounts to the new state board of accounts, chart of accounts. That's mandated by the state before the end of this year. We're also finishing up a 3-year project to get everyone in the county that is deserving re-signed up for homestead credits. We have.
Well, we'll just, what do you think of the idea of volunteer council members coming in as well? Good, bad?
I think if things are submitted to us to correct, we can do it as we have the time to do it. If we carve out chunks of days, we're not going to be able to necessarily keep up with the day-to-day challenges that office has. We have to man the counter, we have to cover lunch hours, and we also have to have just the day-to-day things that come through besides trying to do the catch-up that we're still.
You're working diligently too with the assessor's office on
Yes.
trying to get your values so that you can get your budget order in line, so.
We have splits.
It's just an extremely busy time of the year.
And my plans is rolling next Monday or Tuesday.
That was my question.
We're trying to get roll over the assessed values over from the assessor's office into the auditor's office, hopefully first of next week. Then, once that's done, we have 801 parcels that are, have there's a homestead credit that's available for properties up to an acre. If a person has a piece of property that their home is on, but they own a contiguous lot, and the two parcels add up to less than an acre, then they can take the homestead credit on both parcels. The software that we use does not allow us to auto figure the taxes on those properties, so 801 properties have to be manually figured in-house in the auditor's office because of that anomaly. We're doing the homestead credit. We're also doing the changeover to the new chart of accounts. It's,
All right, well, for some,
it would be better I think if we could have those reports from the individual department heads to make those changes in-house as we have time.
council have any comments or questions about that?
I think that's a good start.
Way to
That's what I
proceed.
suggested, just start and then see.
I like that idea.
I mean, let's give them a time frame. Maybe give them 2 weeks to get it back in or something.
And I think that hopefully it should be done this year. So if it gets into December, we could do an evening, if it would work out better, because sometimes somebody's physically got to punch them in. And if we're going to do it before the end of the year, and your accounts have to be changed, and your homestead, all those things have been done at the end of the year, this has to get in line too. So if an evening works better for some of us, if we could have one staff person or whatever works, but if we're going to identify the things, it's got to be input.
Right.
So, bottom line. But I think the department heads, and I said that early on, that to me was the first approach that makes the most sense on the general fund.
I think we can.
Expenses.
Yeah.
The department heads do that.
Okay, that's the plan. Everybody okay with that?
I'm fine with that. It'd be nice to just have a little update at the next meeting on the 4th or the 3rd. just to
Well,
see where we're-
and maybe Greg, if you could put a date on it, that, could you review this and give me a thumbs up or the corrections or whatever you notice that's irregular? Or maybe they have a question by a certain date, and then you get everybody to check off that says yay or nay, then we have we'd feel better.
Sure.
Thanks, Jackie.
See ya. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
All right, next item is, we have one sheet. It's dated October 29th from the corrections, community-based corrections from Tracy. Additional appropriation. Not here.
She's not able to be here this evening.
requesting additional appropriation in the contracts line items of $5,000 to allow expenditure of the funds collected, as well as projecting for one more offender to be served during the fiscal year. So this is money that is in an account, she just needs the approval to spend it.
And then, I think the interesting piece, I'm on that community corrections board, and they run on a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th, so we're not in a crunch to get this done before the end of this year. I mean, with the whole process, like the other additional appropriations we might see.
Can this be done? I talked to Dee Welch earlier today, and we determined December 18th is enough time to have a final public hearing on appropriations such as this one, where they don't require state approval. Right, disagree. Yeah, well, I had a similar, what I'm trying to say is that December 18th, that meeting date, should be sufficient for public hearing.
So it does need a public hearing, you say? You say it does need a public hearing?
It's an
Now,
appropriation.
what's different about this fund is that it's grant money, and that it doesn't have to go to the state for approval. So at the public hearing, when it's passed,
That would be.
it's done. And December 18th is right before department heads need to turn in their claims for the last claims period of the year. So it'll work.
Okay.
All right, somebody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to advertise for public hearing for December 18th for Community Corrections Fund 389 in the amount of $5,000.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Penny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Sheriff Moses, additional appropriation?
Nope.
No?
Transfer of funds.
Transfer.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
All right. First off, I got a letter from Linda Ripberger, who as of December 9th, 2012, would like to go part-time as a cook in the jail and stay in there as part-time cook. And, I mean, I'm gonna accept her resignation as a full-time, but she would like to stay in part-time. That'll give me 4 part-time cooks to use throughout the whole year. Usually they work like 2 meals, and then one come in for the evening meal, back and forth like that. But I need to transfer some money from the full-time cook position, so 1,000 series, to assistant cook, which is in the same series as 2,800. I think you all have a print out of that. And then 1,200 from waste removal to assistant cooks to get me through the rest of the year. I think I went so bad on my part-time cooks or assistant cooks because Linda did have a knee operation this year and she was off for like 6 weeks, which cost me a little extra out of the part-time budget. But we're trying to make it work so we'll have to have an appropriation or anything.
So she's effectively part-time now.
No, she is, right now, she is technically full-time. She wants to go on, she wants to start part-time, which either December 9th or we can make it January 1, however you guys want to do it. She wants to go the 9th, but I can tell her.
Well, if she waits until January 1, then you won't be able to do this transfer.
Okay, so the 9th is when she,
She will her full appropriation.
do what?
She will end up spending her full appropriation. She's full-time.
Right, that's why, we know there's money left in there because she was out of days and all that stuff, and she ain't paid for a while on sick leave. She was out of sick days and holidays and things like that, so there is money there, and there's gonna be some money left in there at the end anyway. There's gonna be some money in that line in.
Okay, so wait a minute, John, so you're, am I understanding this right then, there's gonna be money left in the full-time cook's line?
Right now, as of she goes out January, or December 9th.
Uh-huh.
There's gonna be there's like $5,500 in there, somewhere in that area right now.
So
Okay.
she's taking some unpaid.
She's taking unpaid leave on some of her sick time. So there's money there to move over.
Okay.
Why don't we move the needed amount from full-time cook and leave the waste removal alone?
Yeah, why are we moving away?
Why do we want?
Well, we got to pay her still throughout the rest of the year, or through December 9th.
And how much will that be?
I think her pay somewhere around 14,000 or 100 for 2 weeks.
You really need,
That's where we went with the number, that's how we got the number 28, just to move it over there, and the 1,200 was just to cover the part-time for the rest. Because we're in the hole right now, part-time, I'll tell you, that got away from us. Or would have been here last month asking for appropriation or something, so,
you're in the negative.
yes, we are. We just noticed that the other day when we looked at our budget. No, we are. So that's why we wanted to move that 12 and 2,800 to that, with your guys' approval.
I'm okay with these transfers, but I do want to point out that anytime there is a transfer between the 10,000 series and a transfer between different series of numbers, there needs to be a resolution attached to all of these transfer requests the county council must sign. And so that will need to be prepared and brought to us at the next meeting so that we can actually physically sign that resolution.
From which one?
You see, John, you're going from 101 in your 100 series to
Yeah.
your threes, and you can't go from one category to the other without council approval. Anything in the 100s takes council approval. Anything in the twos, if you stay in your twos,
That's
if you
why-
went from a 2 to a 2,
We have
200
to do
series,
it, right.
then you could do it within a transfer. But you're going from a 100 series to a
100
300.
series.
You're going from 300, which is your waste, it's in the 300 series. Waste
Oh,
removal is in
35, I see what you're
300.
saying.
And you're
That's
going
one
to
needs to
100.
be,
So that requires a resolution by the council.
okay,
And
the
auditor-
1,200.
The auditor would prepare the resolution
Okay.
for that. That's not something that.
So the 2,800 is okay to transfer, but the 12 would have to be on resolution.
Well, they both would have to be on resolution
Even the,
because it's salaries.
well, full-time cook to part-time cook is salary.
Yeah, anything in the 10,000 series has to be a resolution.
Has to be
Any
also.
transfer that requires county council approval needs to have a resolution attached to
Okay.
it. A transfer in like 20,000 to 20,000 series number, that's just an FYI for us. It's just an informational action. Anything
So
else?
from a
Anything-
3,000 to a 200
Basic thing is
or
to look at
2,000,
anything
would have to
that's in
have
your
one?
payroll, anything that hits a payroll side,
Okay,
it's gotta come to council.
so we're on the second transfer, we're also, we gotta do the same thing,
But the second one, you're going from different numbers.
300 to
You're going to
200.
300s to 100s. So you're going outside, you see, you're in 35-101.
Oh, I got the first one, I know what you're saying. I got the first one, I'm talking about the next page.
Oh, your next step.
The next
You
transfer.
moved on to your next step.
Yeah, I've already moved on,
Okay.
got, I know I gotta have a resolution. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going for 3,000 or 30,000 to 20,000. Does that have to have the same type of deal?
Is this the 1,500 travel conference that you're looking at, John?
Yep, 700, 600 garage and motor.
Yeah, both requests have to be, and they can all be put on one resolution.
Okay. So do I need to draw them up again? You give me
No,
your grade?
no.
I'll prepare them.
We can approve them tonight, but then there has to.
They won't go in until next meeting.
No, you can approve them tonight, I can prepare the resolution for their signature.
Right.
Okay.
On the second one,
Yes.
did we over budget cell phones 20% for this year? We left it, I think, the same for next year.
No, I think we paid a little more out of our commissary account than we paid for it. but I need to move it up to garage and motor so we can take care of the repair and maintenance on our cars and our gas for one last bill, and then we'll be done. When it comes to December.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer. The first request, $2,800 from full-time cook to assistant cooks, and $1,200 from waste removal to assistant cooks. With the resolution follow.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Second.
There's a second. Pat, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, anybody want to make a motion concerning the second transfer?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer, $1,500 from travel conference registration, $700 from merit board, $600 from cell phones to garage and motor, with a resolution to follow.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second? Thanks, Donna. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I got another couple of things, okay. Beth, did we not set up the forfeiture fund, seizure fund?
As it should have been. There
Greg
was-
can't find anything on it, I
And
know
we
that we
sent it to
did.
the auditor's office, because we set it
Yeah,
up
we did find
with
the
the resolution.
The number?
resolution. We did find the
And that's-
resolution.
So we need to set,
That's
you need to
good.
set that account, we haven't been able to give her that check yet. It's still sitting there, because we haven't, been able. I asked Greg, or not Greg, I asked Lindsay.
The line was created, the revenue.
I thought
line
we
was
did.
created, everything was
Yeah,
created.
we need to have that account so I can give her that, put that check in. And then the other thing I was gonna ask you guys, I don't know if you wanna wait till the next meeting or wait till next year. Since Linda is gonna go part-time, can we make the secretary's job as a full-time, and do we need to do that with the salary type deal, or are you guys against going that way? Linda makes about $35,000 a year, and I was trying to put the part-time secretary in at 24, 25.
I'm just gonna be, from what we had and we discussed at budget, I'm not in favor of the full-time position at this point. That's my thought. We'll have a new council next year, they can hear all, but this is my thought only. They can hear, you know, your request and weigh it out, but at this point, I am not in favor of it.
Well, I know that we got the budget squared away, and there's no reason that things can't function as the year begins, so if the new council wants to change anything, with the sheriff's, request, I'd let them look at it. Everything's in line to function, so it's not like
Right,
there's any
it's not-
pressure.
Right, everything will function the way it is, it's not.
I mean, the only problem I'm gonna have is with part-time cooks. If I don't use a full-time cook, I'm gonna have to move some money.
Well, no, wait a
You
minute,
won't.
No, you just.
because if part-time cooks, you're gonna have 20-some thousand, you're not gonna spend that in January, February.
No, that's what I say, but I'm just saying, for the remainder of the year, I'll have to,
Well,
at that point.
the council could take the full-time cook money and make a transfer into
Right.
part-time and just leave it.
Okay.
And you could have part-time, I mean, that's one fix, and there's many other
Right.
combinations, but,
Okay.
but going into the year, you're fine. The
No,
money- the money's
I
there.
understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
What'll happen is if we choose not to leave that full-time, we'll make those transfers, and then we'll reduce that line. We'll
Okay.
actually do a reduction.
Reduce that now and train
appropriation.
the rest, put the rest over there or wherever.
You got 21 in assistance and 34 in full-time this year. I imagine it's
Right,
similar
it's
for next.
a little bit more than this year, I think next year.
All right,
I
thanks.
think, I don't remember what we put in.
All right, the next item on the agenda is IT. And Greg, do we have paperwork for this?
It was, the paperwork was,
It's this one.
yeah, something,
It's got a little right.
yeah, for the loud bill.
Okay.
So technically, what we need to do is we need to close a regular meeting and open a public hearing, because I think this was advertised for public hearing.
here, I see that are out and on series.
Yeah, let's skip this for now, is that all right?
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Suzanne. We're going down to the health department. You have those handy. The first, there's 3 of them, it looks like, right? There's 2, right?
The health department request is $15,112.26.
Right.
Is a additional appropriation for.
Is that similar to the community corrections as far as
This is
grant money?
Grant money.
So if we did it until December 18,
It should be
we're
fine,
okay?
and I talked with you about this, and if that'll work fine.
For both of them?
For the prior one and the health department.
I mean,
What about
the health department's asking for 2 different ones.
There's one for 33,000.
The health department. One's for 33, one's for 9.
It's local health maintenance grant.
For both of these, because this is a local health maintenance grant fund, Fund 807. The fund we've had trouble with, where we need to get state approval is Fund 801. That's just a health fund and there's property tax distributions, and that's why. So both of these would be advertised for December 18th. She has her approval and tonight to submit her plan.
Okay. So just very similar to what we just did with the sheriff's,
Community correction.
or community corrections, yeah. Anybody would like to make a motion concerning the health department's request?
I make a motion that we advertise both of their requests for our next meeting, additional appropriation.
Second.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have the Extension Education Center. Request for transfer of funds. They're not here either, right?
This has got several in it. Good with this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for a point of clarity for the next council, I think you might want to consider asking for a letter of explanation if they're not going to be here. 'Cause a lot of these just say pay a bill or anything like that, and it's very nebulous.
The first one says expected shortage.
It almost seems like it's a wholesale transfer to move funds to spend at the end of the year.
Okay, I'm looking at the majority of these transfers that were given us tonight, all need resolution. All need a resolution.
Greg, it might be something you want to put in to practice too. They need to
Yes.
submit some wording with this.
Yes.
We might even consider advertising for them with the stipulation that they be here next meeting to explain it.
Well, these are transfers, though.
The majority of these are, they've been done up as a transfer here, but they actually are going to require resolutions. The majority of all these we've got tonight. They're not, yeah.
That, and then if you look at this one, there's no names on those numbers. It'd be nice if it asks for the name and the number of the fund. I've got my book if you need a reference on them.
Scott, can I make a recommendation? Can
Yeah.
I say, we got Linda sitting here, and we've got one in here for Linda. So can we go ahead and look at hers, since she's sitting here? we've got several here we're gonna have to go through. And we've got commissioners also, so they don't have to sit through. They want to. Sometimes it's like evening.
So everybody look at the county assessor right here, $1,600 professional outside services to clerical. Right.
Finish out the rest of the year, yes.
Is clerical your part-time?
Yes. I figured out the average to see what we could, top, but right now, I'm using them more than what because I've had some sickness in my group, and, I don't know the days that some of them are gonna be off, but it's taken us all to keep up with trying to get the reassessment done and roll and try to keep the top, because I sent Form 11s out, so we've been bombarded by people coming in, so that's why I'm up here tonight too, working over there, trying to get things caught up, so.
And I take
I'm
time
okay.
here, but how has that gone with the reassessment?
The reassessment, they have till the 27th to decide.
Okay.
The state wants a continuance until the 27th.
So your suit's moving on?
Yeah, we giving them a list of everything, and I was up to $92,000, and we weren't done yet, so, but as of October the 8th.
As of October.
So, but the state Attorney General's office approved them to continuance until then.
I'm okay with the request on the transfer. I move we grant $1,600 from professional outside services to clerical in the reassessment funds.
And that needs to be read as a resolution.
Right. I mean, we don't have any resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the request transfer funds from the county assessor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
We have, you said we had something, board of commissioners? County commissioners, we have one.
Past EMA and joint disciplinary, very last.
$5,000 from unemployment, transferring it to outside professional services.
Okay, and this shows to pay telephone and internet?
I don't think that's appropriate, because it's not an outside professional service, it's a utility. And I didn't know if you could take it from our account and move it to, the IT line. Can you do that?
If you do that, you have to reduce one and you can increase the other. You can create and increase the other, but you have to do additional appropriation to that side. So there's not time to actually do the additional
Okay.
appropriation for it.
And I don't know, I guess I'm open to your suggestions. What I don't want to happen is for it to be misleading in our outside professional service line that we're paying telephone bills.
What I was wondering, I mean, Jackie pointed out the fact that one line was being paid from the recorders, and if it got to the negative, and we're gonna pay you with the solutions amplitude, the aptitude solution, is there enough money there that we could transfer to
It's gonna
phone?
go back the other way, and I looked at that, and there was like, I think about $5,000 actually, 5 or 6,000, but those bills that she's gonna be looking at bringing through is gonna be about 4,000.
Is it that much?
Yeah. It was 19 something a month. They had one for 2,100, it was one for 2,100, the average was 19 something, 1,900 or something.
Well, see, we did that last meeting, the phone bill thing was brought up, and I thought we were covered.
Well, I understood that too, in that resolution that we had presented. And my understanding too was that, and I didn't bring that, but I thought it said at the end that it was all, that there was enough there to cover it one way or the other. And maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that was,
It asked for,
in transfer out the following hours to go toward the above.
and it was 3,481, so it was 3,481, and October to December was around 3,000, so if we transfer that up, did that not?
The transfer actually covered up to October, and it didn't cover the last part of the year. The letter was not apparently clear. He was asking for a $3,000 an additional appropriation to get through the end of December.
Oh, no, that wasn't made, that wasn't.
And so it was misinterpreted apparently.
Because this says, cover the phone bill for the dial tone and long distance charges until the end of the year, and it was for $3,000, and he has October to December there.
We asked for the clarity before we transferred, right? There was so many lines, we wanted to make sure that we were okay in that. That's why I'd asked for a current ledger, I didn't know.
And these transfers all been made,
Those
right?
were only made before the last bills were paid.
Is there any other, in the IT budget, any other money?
IT budget's essentially zeroed out as far as I.
But it has some money for the aptitude solutions, and how much is that?
I don't know.
Would anyone be interested in seeing a ledger, that ledger in particular, just to see what monies are available? Because was I hearing some thoughts on maybe paying the aptitude solutions from the contracted services out of EMC, and using those monies in the IT budget to move up into the phone line? Is that what was being said earlier?
No, that's a law.
That's a possibility.
Because the aptitude solutions is more of a contracted service.
Right, that's a lot more.
And those monies could be utilized and moved easier and kept intact with all of the other telephone spending for the year in that location.
There wouldn't be a need for a transfer to the outside professional services and commissioners line.
It's just,
They could just
as of
pay it out.
today, it would be nice to see what money is available.
I agree.
All these other ones we have from the extension office, the auditor's office, all these need resolutions as well.
They all need resolutions.
Almost every single one. The extension office has one that is an FYI, and that's first repair, maintenance, travel conference, and registration. Almost all the rest of them will need motions by the county council.
And on the treasurer, there's two on the treasurer that's fine. The first two, the 831.77 and 55.44.
You could do the other two for the commissioners. These are similar to what you have been doing with the 1,000. The first one is, we've already paid all of our monies to John Hancock for the deferred comp. And we have exactly 3138.09 left. And we need money in county attorney. So that was one.
Those three requests all require a resolution too.
And then unemployed benefits, we have approximately $9,000. And I suggested that we take $4,000 and move it to the outside professional services line. And this is my effort to prevent you from having to do an additional appropriation at the beginning of the year with the new council to pay for the leaking underground storage tank unexpected bill that we have coming up for $8,000. Because if you're able to do that, and then there's another $4,000 I think I can get from adult and juvenile care to pay for that, encumber that for next year, so you won't have to do that. I think you all got an email from Bill there today about,
Tonight.
okay, about that. He was just in FYI saying that, you might have to do that at the beginning of the year, but I think that since this money is already here, if you can move it, then it could be encumbered for that purpose.
So the thought, those bills are paid out of the outside professional service line.
Right.
I replied to that email and asked where he thought that additional appropriation would be placed.
Well, the thought was that it was just have to be from general, well, you originally appropriated the other amount from rainy day.
That's why I asked, because I said,
Right.
my question was, are you considering general fund, rainy day,
Right.
edit, windmill? I mean, what are we thinking
Right.
we're going to pay it from? Because it makes a difference, because what do we have in outside professional services budgeted for next year?
We have $8,000, and there's only 4 things that can come out of there. And I've already alerted people that there's only 4 professional services that can come out of that line. And I accounted for all those when I was here for budget hearings. But then this one would be the 5th one.
But my point I made in the email when I replied to Bill Beard, I said, in January, there's money available. So it's not such a timely issue that you can't, as a council or commissioners, move money or pay that bill in January, February, and deal with it in August or September if you're short, depending on what's going on. So
Yeah.
the encumbrance is one way to potentially attack it, but the other thing is you can pay your bills normally early enough. It's later in the year, and I gave an explanation of, if Johnny, if his gas prices went up all of a sudden, he doesn't need extra money in January because he can still pay his bills. It's at the end of the year when he might be short. So I don't know that it was that crucial of an issue if there's money available in January.
Right. Well, and I think that this will, if you allow this, it's already there, it's not being used, then it will take care of that problem. Just encumber it. And it'll be available then right off the bat.
If we don't encumber it, it still stays in the general fund and is available
Correct.
in the next year to be utilized too. So either way,
Yeah.
we don't
And
lose it.
I don't think that, I'm not sure what immediate bills are in January out of the outside professional services. One is Maximus, but I don't think that's in January. I was just trying to take care of it so that it wouldn't be forgotten.
Because he was asking for an additional appropriation.
Right, so that-
If it's not presented here, there's no way you can do it in December. So that automatically rolls into 13, and I just don't think it's a dead end right now.
We already signed the contract, so, I was thinking that if you did this, then we could already even pay it this year. And then you wouldn't have to worry about it at all.
So Suzanne, we're looking for additional, or money that's left over.
This, you don't want to use this.
You don't want to use this report.
He's running it.
I was going to say, wait a minute.
This one. He's getting us this one.
Yeah, I'm worried, because I'm going to start printing more money.
We actually just need 4,000. $1,700 out of that yesterday was it should have come out of internet, high-speed internet access, and she had it in the telephone line, but it should come out of high-speed internet access. So we really only need 3,500. I just said 4,000 just to make sure.
So while he's getting that, I'd like to move back up to the top, and the request for the transfer from deferred comp to the county attorney. I said this earlier a few meetings ago, but I think it's unfortunate that we've had to use the county attorney, or there's an appearance that we have to use the county attorney so much, because I think we've wasted a lot of money. I asked earlier about some type of a system where it could be, the county attorney could be accessed, but some type of a filter or some way that somebody could control how that happens, because there's too many people that have accessed the county attorney and we're getting charged for it. And there's times when it's not appropriate. And the most specific one that I can recall is when we were doing the windmill, and the county commissioners had asked the county attorney and financial people to come to our meeting, and we specifically said it wasn't necessary. So we paid a bill at our meeting that was not necessary. I think we've got to watch that. So somehow there should be some type of mechanism that allows the county attorney to be available with some type of a filtering process, or it just should be wide open.
It was just one commissioner that asked that, not the commissioners.
There was also the meeting that we talked about, was one of Phil's first meetings with the CIP plan, and there was really no reason for the county attorney to be there at that meeting either, in my opinion. They've been engaged quite a bit, and I think most of the county, the people in the county that care, they know about it, and I get the sense as I talk to people on the street that it has been pretty frivolously spent, the money in that area to engage. And I've got an example that's going to be on the agenda yet this evening. That's another example of engaging the county attorney when we didn't have to. And it's now this year it's thousands of dollars that we have used of our neighbors' money to use to pay a lawyer when we didn't need it. And as you can all tell, we have needs for that money in some other really important areas. All right, Suzanne, help us out what we're looking for.
Well, you're going to be looking at the appropriations in the first column. It's got year-to-date expenditures, and what is remaining then is under unencumbered,
Okay.
the balance. That's really the column you need to look at. Telephones in the negative $1,165.
Great, so is that 1,000, what we're behind, what we're in negative in telephone now? Is that with this bill being paid? Was it paid with the account being negative, or are we?
I believe she's already cut the check, so we can get it in the mail.
Okay, so it was paid out of there.
We're trying to avoid late charges,
Okay, so it was paid out of there.
I believe.
There was a positive balance yesterday.
Yeah, so I think she's cut the check so that in anticipation of approval, so we can get the bill paid, because it will incur rather
Okay,
large
okay.
fines otherwise.
Okay, so technically, we probably only have one more bill.
Yes.
For next month.
What is it in the negative?
It's $1,165.49.
They're typically about $2,200.
And internet is also in the negative, 295.
What is that? High-speed internet access?
internet EMA, as it says.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah.
That's not right.
That-
There should be no posting there.
No.
That's an error. Mark that. Mark that down. Found one.
Recorder Aptitude Solutions, 6468.
That's the one.
So, do we know how many bills we have remaining? Are we holding any, or what's going to be coming in the next month?
For who, for what?
For recorder aptitude solutions?
But the corrections Jackie just said, that she said will be made, are those to made the 2 months that she said needed to be charged back off to this?
No, did not. She doesn't make the correction.
What I'm asking you.
I mean,
I'm sorry. That he's made up this.
I don't know.
Okay, so do you know what that number was?
The current month spending under recorder aptitude solutions is $1,284. I don't know when that was paid out.
yesterday.
Yesterday, so if we're not behind, we would anticipate one more bill.
Does it show the date on there?
No,
Yeah.
1031.
10/19 was when it was paid.
Okay, there was another one yesterday, then there was
Yes.
one yesterday.
Yeah, 10/19, or 11/19.
Oh, okay.
this will be 11/19.
Yes.
So one more
Should we-
bill.
So that's
Plus,
1,300.
plus what Jackie's got to correct, what needs to be corrected that Jackie found, which will probably be close to $3,000 to $4,000.
Well, and there's not much left.
Well, if there may be enough to filter that bill and anything left, I mean, if we let it ride, I think we'll see it. But the corrections need to be made that Jackie's got, so we get the true number.
There may be a possibility of remaining funds in the Tamco phone system. It may not be a lot, but it could be $1,500. If next month tracks with this month,
We would need about.
Do you see the high-speed internet access? Do you have that on your sheet?
$870.
Do you see an entry in April of about $126?
we don't have the actual detail.
Okay. That money's coming back into it. It was misposted to that line and there's really checks, so that will be more money there too, $126.
So we didn't find very much in the IT.
I think we'll be really close, you know, myself, but I would much rather,
It'd be nice to know for sure
yeah.
what would be coming in regards to the recorder aptitude solutions, because looking at the potential for remaining funds in this location, it would transfers, could potentially cover all the remaining expenses, all the phone expenses to the end of the year. But as of right now, we don't know how much will be billed under recorder aptitude solutions and how much will be billed under the Tamco phone lease. But it looks like there's potential there. If it is reflective of what has been spent in the current month to date, then we should be fine, just transferring. And it would be an FYI type of transfer. It would not require resolution or council approval.
I looked over the history on the aptitude solutions payments, and they're very, they've got 2 or 3 for like 1,900 something, and you've got a couple for 1,284, and there was a 3,000 and some dollar one. And I do believe, did someone talk with Jackie about that too? I think Jackie may with Marla about that also.
Last year it was just under 20,000.
Well, we've got one more meeting, we can do transfers,
Okay.
December 18th.
No motion?
Yes.
I make a motion on this request for the telephone bill from the commissioner, that we take no action on that and allow the account to basically write out to see where we end up for our December meeting.
Well, I here's the first part.
That we not accept this, that we take no action on this for the $5,000 for the telephone. It was for an unemployment to outside professional services to pay the telephone and internet. And let the account that it's in the IT department, or that'll give us a chance to find out from Marla exactly where we're gonna be. Because for some reason, I looked at last year's too, I pulled the ledger from last year and looked, and our appropriation was a little higher. So it could be that at the point when she did her budget, she didn't know exactly what her contract was gonna be. So I think that'll give us some fair time to do that. And if so, we'll pull from them next meeting.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next transfer. Or do we want to address these all at once? We've already been told that the extension center has an FYI and the treasurer has the first two that are FYIs. Are you the treasurer? Anybody have a preference on how you want to tackle these other ones one at a time?
I think we still need on the commissioners. There were still two issues there, from the deferred comp line to the county attorney, which will require a resolution. And it earned employee benefits to outside professional services. See the top two? The last one, I think, is unemployment to cover, is that for the telephone bill? This telephone bill, or is that something else?
Yes, that was what you just asked about.
Okay,
So
all
it's
right.
just the top two.
Okay. I make a motion, or you make the motion?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the transfer of $3,138.09 from the deferred comp line and commissioner's line to county attorney. And so noted on a resolution at our next meeting. And the same thing for earned employee benefits of $4,000 to outside professional services to allow for this encumbrance. Our next
Second.
meeting resolution.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
And I'm aye too. Yes, no. I'm aye too on that. All right, next one, Extension Education Center. First one's FYI. Transfer repair and maintenance to office supplies, $2,000.
Anybody got a balance on that line?
I'm glad she's pre-planning. She knows it might be a shortage instead of waiting till there is. Good.
Apparently have less maintenance costs. Increase in supplies.
She watches her budget pretty darn good.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we allow the transfer from 362 in the extension line, repair and maintenance to office supplies for $2,000, followed with the resolution at next meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Auditor, we have 150 from official records, repair and maintenance, $9.62 for dues. That's also repair and maintenance, right? Yeah. $451.62. Looks like Greg's cleaning out some things that
Scraping together some pennies and dollars.
the repair and maintenance.
Some negatives right now.
I don't have negatives, but I'm anticipating the two bills that have to be covered for the end of the year.
And down here on the announcement, right, for the 451.62, and I'm sorry, I
repair and maintenance
Repair.
equipment.
Oh, I'm
It's the
sorry.
Ramsey.
It's right there ahead of me.
Yeah, it's Ramsey's repair and
Maintenance
maintenance
agreement.
It's all,
contract.
this is all for Ramsey.
Yes.
Is there a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion for the transfer of $150 from official records to repair and maintenance equipment in the auditor budget, $451.62 from first deputy to repair and maintenance equipment, followed by resolution to the county council.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thanks, Beth. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Auditor, 3,000 for part-time and professional outside services to do fall settlement. All right.
Yes.
Did you determine that this was, this is the preferred way that you want to go with your fall settlement, rather than utilizing loud services?
It doesn't make any difference whether we use LAO or any other service, we're going to have to pay for it. LAO charges $93 an hour plus lodging and meals. If I use, this, I would use Maximus to help me with this, and they can train us as well. So that we would have in-house knowledge to prepare for spring and fall, when something's just going out. So it's about 6 to 1, that was the other source of the cost.
How many hours?
This would be based on 30 hours.
Is Jackie familiar with the loud settlement closing
Yes.
process?
Yes. In fact, she's also helped Howard County and other counties with their settlements as well.
Is there a motion then?
I'll make a
Well,
motion.
right.
Brad's got a question here.
What have we done in the past?
We've had outside, to my knowledge, we've had outside individuals come in and help. LAO helped with the spring settlement. We also had Darren, Pit Stop, I think is the company, that came in and helped with that. And they had their own software that they used to help determine what the distributions of the excise tax and what have you were. They contracted with Mandy last spring and for a very small fee, and their comment was that that wasn't going to happen again. So
How did we pay them with no outside professional service line last year?
I do not know how Mandy paid for that. I haven't had a chance to look through the books to find out how she did it. I don't know what she did.
Well, I would think, I know we're gonna do a public hearing to discuss the 25,000 for LAO. And in talking with LAO about what we owe them and what we potentially might use the rest of the year, the settlement was included in that rest of the year money. So, first of all, if we did this, we wouldn't need the 25 total for LAO. I don't know why we would get away from our software vendor who's done it multiple times and go to a different entity. I don't know that that's, if we're paying Jackie to find problems and identify errors, that's what I thought she was gonna do. So we might as well have given her the 20,000 a couple meetings ago and just let her go. You know, do everything and train and when does, I don't know where we do it, but to me, if we're gonna pay LAO, we ought to pay LAO. If we're gonna pay Maximus, then we shouldn't pay LAO. One or the other. But it just seems like it's another way. Jackie's,
They're still going to have to utilize LAO. I mean, there's a lot of interaction with LAO over the phone. I think it just, LAO will not be present. The state of Indiana auditor of the state will send out about a 100-page instruction manual for settlement. Greg and the staff on how to make it through that instructional manual. But they're still going to have Lau on the other end of the line, because it requires that interaction. It requires a certain set of keystrokes and processes that they will have to utilize Lau for within using their system.
But it sounds like then we ought to just go ahead and write the blank check to Maximus, and we can all go home. I mean, I don't know that that's a great,
Lyle did it last year, right?
Well,
Lyle did
I
seven.
don't know a lot about what happened last year. They probably were on site for several days. The instruction manual can be a bit intimidating when you're sent a manual of that size.
Is Lau familiar with the manual? I think it was you or auditor did Lau help you do it. Is that how you did it? Did you hire an outside professional, someone from outside to come in and do it? Let's work with Lau, and how did you do it?
I think they were in for part of the day, just to go through the settlement process. The part that Lau does is pretty quick. That's maximum 1 day. There's a lot of other work that needs to be done outside of just running the initial settlement.
how did you do it your first year? First year?
It was a lot different my first year. We didn't have a button to push to run the settlement. It was all manual.
So you did it manually. Did you use Lau to some degree? Did we get settled?
But I also had a very experienced property tax guy who had been doing settlement for years.
Makes a big difference.
I did call Sean around today to get your current balance for you, so that you would know, since you're doing this appropriation. That was 17,108, and that's why I asked him why, the 25,000, and he said that he said, well, we're planning to do settlement. Of course, he is the vendor, so, take this for what it's worth. He said, I would not recommend anyone else doing settlement other than people who have software. So, that's just what he said. And he said, not today, just like what you said, Suzanne. But it would take about a day to do it, but then there would be some other things as far as distributions to make sure that those are done correctly.
So 17,108 is what we owe them out of the 25.
Right, as of
And
today.
then was there anything else outstanding
No,
or
as
will
of
be
today.
outstanding?
As of today, that's what you owe. And then he said the reason that it was 25 is because he was just saying he had anticipated doing settlement because he always had. And so that's why it was built in, and then anything that you did not use.
Sent for half a day.
Well, no, but see, when that 25 came, that was, I don't think they've been used since September much. So,
Well, no, I think because we figured out that every time they walk in and say, hello, do you need anything?
So,
We've
he
been
said-
very careful not to use Lau as much as possible because it's been so much build time.
if you appropriate the whole amount, he said we just carry over. So,
Well, I
you know,
don't think it's carrying over stuff.
whatever you want to do, that's just what he said to me, was that we would recommend doing it with their own software.
Thank you for checking and getting that balance. That is cool. Right here.
So Suzanne, did I hear you right? You said you thought it was probably going to be necessary to have Greg and Jackie on the phone, and also, wow, this all three of them.
No, I see a benefit in using Jackie in regards to the things that have to be done for settlement, the coding and the writing of checks and the reconciling, everything that Lau does not do after the fact, after they've run.
But we were talking about the manual, and you said that,
The manual comes from the state.
and you said that it would be good to have Greg and Jackie on the line talking to Lau.
Well, maybe not both of them on the line talking Jackie is a wealth of knowledge, and she could explain some things and walk through some of the instructional manual and get great. You know, I could go either way. I mean, I'm not going to say hire Jackie because Lau is a great resource, and the state of Indiana, the auditor of the state, they're a great resource as well. They can walk you through the manual and help you stay organized. But I would say Jackie would be a benefit. She'd definitely be helpful.
All right, I'm open for a motion.
Well, one, we have to create this line. It's 311 line is not created in the budget.
It's not.
So this is definitely going to take a resolution, and this is not one that we have to be recommending.
And is that a flat fee, or is she?
No, this is
going
an
to
estimate,
charge?
this is an estimate, she'll only charge for the hours that she actually uses.
Is this a contractual agreement that the commissioners would have to sign?
I'll have to find out from Jackie whether she requires a contract. It very well may be.
They did you settlement, man, when is that done?
It's in December. Mid-December is what we're anticipating, around the 11th or 12th of December. So we can start. Or 11th, 12th, 13th as a proposed date.
Okay, so no action?
And I guess one more question. We're so, looking at staffing and the amount of work and the new numbers and the third year on the homestead and everything, you can afford to give away $3,000 of part-time money for another thing?
I have to do settlement. It's not something that I can, that's an option for me.
Okay.
It has to be done, and so I've intentionally held back on using part-time help because I anticipated having to do settlement, and I knew that it was going to be a long and expensive venture, and if I blew that, then what do I do? You know, there's nothing left. Right? So it's,
Another question is, would there be a possibility of another auditor, another Lau County auditor coming in, or one of their settlement deputies coming in and helping you through the process? Would that be?
you know, all those auditors, our offices are looking at the same kind of challenges that we are as far as switch shifting over to the state account numbers, and they're doing, they're spending their dollars for the same processes. I doubt very seriously that somebody would be willing to give us a day or two of settlement. What would that be?
What kind of money do you have currently in part-time?
There's approximately $4,100 right now. Part-time.
Well, this is an important issue, and it's one that has to be done right, but there's a lot of consequences that fall from it. Are you welcome to a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that in a resolution at our next meeting, okay, be prepared to allow for the creation of line 311, outside professional services within the auditor's budget.
All right, thank you,
And
Beth.
then a transfer from 119 part-time into 311, the amount of $3,000. I still have one more. We got one down the bottom of the page.
Oh, the bottom item.
And then we allow for the transfer from 211 to 365 as submitted by the auditor to follow on that resolution. See at the bottom of your page,
The bottom item.
We're at.
right above Greg's signature.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's just an example. Oh, that's just an example. Okay, you don't need that there. Okay, all right, so just the $3,000. Okay, with the resolution to follow, the creation of that one.
I don't know, second one.
So there
the other. I feel Greg needs to make that choice, you know, he knows what he needs best there. And this is one of the most important things he's gonna be doing here.
And it's his first settlement,
And
and this is the bigger of the two settlements.
this is a huge one.
It has to be done.
Well, it has to be done right.
Right.
And the only thing I caution, Greg, is that if there's an error made and it's using Jackie over Lau and it has to be corrected on the Lau side, then you're gonna pay for that. And there could be some repercussion on that side. So that would be something I would caution you there and looking at your fingers. Because they are, and if they make the error, then they're gonna have to correct it. And it should be
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, John, a second. Is there any discussion?
But looking ahead, if we're gonna do loud here in a little bit, are we
It
gonna,
needs to be reduced.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
all right,
County treasurer,
So can I just ask one thing? Beth, you know, you made a motion to create that line, that 31100. On Friday, that one was created in the ledger in the IT budget. Just,
That
just-
line, there shouldn't be any lines created in the budget without council approval. So, do we have a 311 in there, right, in there? I think
it
it
it was in the IT budget that I noticed, and,
Anytime a line's created, it needs to turn to the council.
but
Anytime you move away from what that original budget that was passed,
but there's no appropriation in that line either.
so you can't spend out of it.
I know, it's all that happened, so I was just hoping that that could be, you know, verbalized, that that can be done, it has to be reversed.
that needs to be replaced.
Well, the line will probably show through the end of the year. It could have been, sometimes that can happen if there's a misposting and they accidentally post in an account number like that in the wrong budget, then all of a sudden it's there. And they may fix it, but it's still going to be there. As long as it's zero, then we'll find then there's going to be in there.
okay, next item. County treasurer, first two lines are FYI. She's requesting $115 and $116.49 be transferred to pay an invoice. We don't have exactly what they are written down, just the numbers. From 213 to 362 and from 212 to
362, that's repair and maintenance. Ramsey.
Right, yeah, that is, I'm sure that's the Ramsey bill that she's also scrambling to pay.
Is that a?
213.
Set monthly or?
It's, yeah, it's repair and maintenance on the copy machine.
213
It's a
is
set price.
Yes.
213 is stationary.
Remember when we did the thing with Ramsey, where we put them onto that umbrella and we said there were a few that fell out that were going to
Official
There's
records.
one that fell out of that, it's not in the blanket. It's not in
Remember
the
we did that
blanket.
blanket to say this,
Yeah.
he said there were a few that were gonna fall out, that, so she must be one of them.
I think she is, and I must be the other, one of the others.
okay. We got the stationary printing is the first one, and official records is the second one. Brad looked them up for us. Is there a motion for this transfer?
Are you on 115?
115, 116.49.
I'll make a motion to transfer $115 from account 21300 to account 36200 and $116.49 from account 21200 to account 36200, all in the county treasurer's fund, or county treasurer location in the general fund, and resolution to follow.
Okay, thank you, Brad, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Request for transfer from the EMA.
Okay, this says it pays current, is it gonna have anything in December?
It's a gas
It's a
bill.
big,
The gas, your gasoline, it's a gasoline bill.
It's $22.
$22. You may need They're not free for using the truck.
maybe you'll have something else back series you can move it. I don't know.
We'll park it when he runs out.
Mark it when it comes out. I'll make a motion. That
Ready?
big one there?
Ready for a motion for that $22?
It does the rest.
I move we approve it with resolution following.
All right, thank you, Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Pat. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Next one is also EMA. We need resolution, was these, Suzanne?
We do not.
No, they
The
don't.
last.
The last
We do.
one, no.
Oh, right.
We do on the last two. We do on the last two, not the first one, it's an FYI.
It's not very much money. I make a motion that we approve $52 from travel conference and registration to other operating, $1.14 from radio maintenance to other operating, and to have EMA budget with resolution to follow.
All right, thanks, Suzanne.
Second.
Thanks. Beth, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have one more. Last one. 5,000 from group medical to part-time and 2,000 from overtime to part-time.
Yeah, dispatcher, full-time is out, so we had to use more part-time, sick leave.
Sick leave. I make a motion, you wanna make a motion?
I'll second. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the transfer request to joint dispatch in the amount of $5,000 from 173 to 119 from group medical to part-time, and $2,000 from overtime, 125 to part-time, 119, the amount of $7,000 total with resolution to follow.
Second.
All right, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. We have one more. We'll just finish up the agenda, and then we'll go back with the public hearing. Does that make sense?
I do have one thing too, sorry.
No.
We are getting $65,000 from UV for our legal expenses. And it's to be deposited in that wind energy expense fund. So what I need to know from you is you have to, for us to pay our bills this year, you have to go ahead and appropriate that. Okay, so then I'm asking you if you will advertise for that for your next meeting so that we can pay our bills for our legal and financial services in December.
And how much are we getting?
$65,000
And it's going in what fund?
into the wind energy expense fund. I think that's 781. It was
There's
781.
780 and 781, I believe, but 781 is the expense. I believe that's right, 781.
I'll make a motion to advertise for public hearing for $65,000 in the wind energy expense fund.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. Beth, all those in favor to advertise for $65,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This next item I asked Greg to put on the agenda, just to give those of you in the audience a little bit of update of history with this bond. Amanda Henry bond discussion. It came about because the council was making some difficult decisions to approve tens of thousands of dollars to help the auditor's office. And that's what Jackie has been here for the last several months. One of the council members brought up the bond to see if we could pursue that so that that bond issue could pay for that. And so as a council, as a group, we all asked Jane to, if she would be so kind to check on this for us, and she did. She can explain that if she wants, but essentially there's been some roadblocks with that. I think is that the best way just to sum it up, Jane? The insurance company. So I just wanted to, since I put this on the agenda, I just wanted to recap what happened. An employee of the county paid her personal bills with county money. She essentially stole money, and it's a horrible thing. And we all know people who have done it, and we all feel bad about it, and we don't want to continue to perseverate on it, but we do want to act responsibly, and because it's the money of the taxpayers that we're concerned about. And the good news is, for the county taxpayers, that the county pays for a bond. And so, similar to the average layperson paying for a car insurance and then having a wreck, an accident, and then filing a claim to get their car or truck repaired, that's what the bond does for us. It covers losses for the county due to negligence, and Beth probably has the official terms because she's worked with this as well on the city side. But basically for negligence, things like theft, which that's what had occurred. And so I wanted to keep this on the agenda. It's really, in my opinion, the county commissioner's job, because what they do is they engage in the contract, or they hold the policy with the bond. So they're the initiators of this, and nothing has been done from it. And I wanted to keep it on the table to find out why. I don't know if I want to say this next thing, but I think I do. Unless Phil and Jane has something to say, if they can help us understand why we aren't trying to recuperate the tens of thousands of dollars for our county general fund for a bond that we had paid for. Does either one of you have an explanation of why we aren't pursuing that?
No, the claim is open, as you asked me to do. So I did. I went there and I asked them what the procedure was, and they said that is the procedure. That, you go to the insurance company, and if you think that there could be a claim, then you start the process. So that's what happened. And they asked me to submit anything that I had, so I did. And then a couple weeks later, we got a letter from the county attorney saying that any submissions were improper and premature, and that it needed to wait. But I had already done that because you had asked me to do it. And so I was following the procedures of the insurance company, which is who we have it on with. So I was only acting on their request and on what they told me to do. So I submitted whatever I had.
So someone engaged the county attorney in this issue. Phil, was that you or was that Mike?
The county attorney was involved with the whole deal. He was either involved when Amanda was questioned about it. His recommendation to us was wait until all the facts come in and then he will pursue the proper procedures.
I think I speak for some of the council members I've spoken to them. The question to some of us are, why does a county attorney have to be involved in filing a claim with an insurance company?
He is the legal advice for us, and I abide by what he says until somebody proves different. The county attorney is the one that knows the laws, he knows the procedures on the surety bonds, which is not just like an insurance company. What was she bonded for? So he has to have the evidence, and then it will be proceeded as he deems and sees fit.
Is there any, I guess, definition or clarity as to what he thinks that he's waiting for? I mean, evidence, is it?
One of the things he's waiting for is a summary report from Jackie whenever she gets done, so so he does have all the facts, how much was negligent, how much was misuse, and what is the total scope of it?
That's one.
That's enough for me.
Okay. I didn't know if he.
I mean, what?
I didn't know if he
why-
identified.
Why would you want to jump, without having all the facts, why would you suddenly want to jump into it and make a big issue when we don't really know what our rights are?
Well, I'm gonna address that.
Well, I was just going by, it's their policy, we got the bond from that company. And that's their procedure and their policies. So that's what they told me is standard to do, so. And it didn't, filing or submitting things didn't hurt, it was just opening the file or opening the claim. Anything could have been, could have been an ongoing submission.
They haven't made any decision
No.
to act on the bond.
Yeah, so it's still open,
So
so
it's-
nothing's happened
Yeah.
Right.
from a legal
And that's what
standpoint,
we
so,
wanted to pursue that bond.
okay.
Making them aware of what's going on.
And that's exactly what happened, and that's what I was told to do. I mean, I viewed it like, if the county vehicle is in an accident, and we have insurance on that vehicle, we don't call the attorney, we go to the insurance company, find out what we're supposed to do. But it wasn't until after I did that I got the letter.
We got a letter from John Brooks early on telling us that he would take care of the facts, he has turned it over to the State Board of Accounts, and he will advise us when he gets the rest of the facts on how to proceed.
I did.
So has John turned anything over to the State Board of Accounts, to your knowledge? I mean, they're up here doing an audit, why would they need anything from the attorney?
He said he turned everything over to proper people.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck.
And is that bond still being paid? At one point, we were told the bond was still being paid. That surely isn't being paid now.
It is, and that was the other dispute. The insurance company told me that it should be canceled because,
That bond should have been transferred to Greg.
because
I'm
any,
surprised that was not a good idea.
Right.
By the county attorney.
and
Having a fresh bond under my name and not mix the two.
Well, they would have transferred the bond in name, but they would transfer the money that was left on that bond.
Her bond is still current through the end of this year.
Hughes Insurance told me we should have ended it because it covered her up until the day she left. And it would cover her. And we should have ended it now tonight.
It should have been ended at the termination of her employment.
She said it's fully covered until there wasn't any reason to keep going on. But we are.
Well, besides all of that, what's troubling to me, and I talk to people, but it's been widely reported and it's believed that the president of the Board of Commissioners, the head of the Republican Party, the county attorney, met with this employee, asked her to resign, and stated to her that there wouldn't be charges pressed. Have you heard that?
No, I've not heard that. If that is true, why don't you ask the people that you said were involved in it?
I just wondered if you heard it.
Why don't you ask the people instead of passing on rumors?
It's been widely reported to me, that's what took place.
The one way to find out, Scott, is if you ask the people instead of spreading rumors.
Well, we'll just assume, I think the council feels a little bit better, that it's still
Assume,
going to be pursued.
how does that, what's assuming?
That you guys are going to continue to follow up on it, and that it hopefully will come to some resolution, and the county taxpayers will receive the money that was stolen. And then all the other damages, because we're working with things, Phil, we're working with things like,
Scott,
you
I
saw
feel
this,
confident.
Jackie this, Jackie that. We don't know exactly what we're going to be reimbursed for all this stuff. So
That's
it
true, we don't.
could lead to $200,000. So that concerns me.
I have complete confidence that if legally, if we are entitled to it, we will get it.
Okay, that's good. Should we open up for the public hearing? Is there anything else before we move along?
What's our ordinance, and I don't know, Greg, did you have something for us?
I don't have yet, I'll bring it to the next meeting.
Well, could I ask that you email that out to all of
Yes.
us?
Yes.
And
I
even
will
to
have
the
it.
new council coming on, so they'll
Yes.
see what we've got to work with next year?
Yes, that's based
Or
on
we
the,
approve that salary order?
based on what we have approved in
Okay,
October.
that way we can check our numbers with the
Yes.
budget.
I should have that in the next few days. I've asked for reports from the sheriff and from the EMA and from highway to get, so I have the names of each individual that ordinance and put the numbers of each person on their payroll list.
And
It's about 4 legal pages long, so it's a lot of paperwork.
And in addition to that, can you send out the ordinances?
Yes.
Last couple months?
Yes.
Send out. Anything else that we need to cover in the regular meeting?
Just to add on to the budget request, if we could get a budget book,
Yes.
that would be great.
Okay, we'll officially adjourn our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Do you want to adjourn the meeting and then
Open the, yeah.
I'll make
What-
a motion.
Wait.
Are we gonna come back and act on it? Why don't we do it at recess, the regular meeting?
I motion to recess.
All right, the council's in recess. We'll now open up the public hearing to consider $25,000 appropriation for the IT budget. Is there any discussion?
We had a document in here that had the actual balance. I think it was on the VOC, one of the VOC transfer requests. I thought I saw it. Yeah, I thought I saw a $17,000 figure.
She just made it sound to my mind, maybe it isn't, but she verbally told us that. Yeah.
In discussion on the 25,000? You think it should be reduced? Is there any comment from the public?
What's the $25,000 to be used for, Scott? Do you know?
I don't know if we know exactly.
We owe 17,000
That's allowed.
to allow. And there's anticipation of their services for the rest of the year that could go to 25. With them, since they're a software, if we don't use the hours or the time, they will bank it and it's available next year to be used. So if we paid them, we would have a credit going in if we didn't use it.
And we get a report of that thing that you're in, what we have banked.
The auditor may.
But if there's money left over from that 25,000, we can provide it.
We got a bill for 25,000. We don't owe it all. So, I mean, we could pay it and then they would have that available to use, but
Bob, you have a comment?
Is that a new bill, or how did we get to November needing $25,000?
this bill is actually dated December 12th, due November 11th. I'm sorry, October 12th. It includes training on the software, staff development, retraining, hardware installation and setup, installation of application software, installation of database software, installation of other software, and consulting and planning is required, additional support at the current rates. So it basically takes care of our $17,000 debt and allows us to have credit for using their services as needed.
You know what we paid Lau this year?
A bunch.
I assumed that.
Is that both treasurer and auditor? Or is that?
I think this is all your,
No, the
It's a
treasurer
vote.
auditor, we paid, the 25 in September. That was that bill.
That was treasurer and auditor.
Yeah, that was that 25,700 that was due July 31st, remember that?
a couple of years ago, we started the year with 9,000 of credit 2 years ago. And we have, in this year's budget, 20,300 for auditor Lau, 33,100 for treasurer Lau. So there's 53.
Plus the 9.
And then what do you have for Lao Technical Services, which is what that is?
15.6
For 2012?
for 2012.
Okay, and then that's, what happened was, remember when you had that budgeted for 2012, that was spent on January 3rd of this year for money
For TAM.
for debt in 2011.
11. We got into the hole in 11. We spent our 9 credit, we spent our 15 we had that year, and the 15 we had for the next year, we paid it in January because we're sitting like this where we owe.
But then you weren't informed that that went out, so that there could have been something done
Right.
until right now.
Because they do, if you use them, they start the clock.
Anybody else from the public have anything? Questions, comments?
So did we not know that was out of money?
You mean in 2011?
No. Or we need this money, or when was the bill incurred?
The 17,000 that we owe,
Yeah.
Over the course of the last year, 11 months.
But we just discovered it recently. Who's watching?
it's in the IT budget. The appropriations are there,
So
so.
who's watching the budget?
Well, it's in the IT budget. So the IT person watches it.
That goes back to the signing the claims and tracking. I think some of that's, in the past.
But he doesn't have any control. Some of this wasn't revealed to us until recently from them.
Right.
They were just carrying the balance.
But if he signs the claim, then he knows it's coming out. If he doesn't sign the claim, then he has no idea that it's been paid.
So then it was sent through being unapproved, or approved but not signed.
I said, whoever has control of that budget got to sign the claim, no matter what the situation is.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Brad. Is there a second?
Can we allow the auditor to speak?
Have we decided, have we made a decision?
Public
We're-
hearing.
we're gonna close the public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah. we're
I'll make a
close-
motion to close the public
All right,
hearing.
thanks,
Second.
Dan. You close, she second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. County council discussions. Oh, we're gonna reconvene.
I move we come out of recess.
We're out of recess officially.
This bill, we know we have already $17,108 spent. The balance is going to be for technical services. Lau will be assisting in the finalization of that switch over, that changeover to the mandated new state board of accounts, the chart of accounts. They will also be participating to some degree in the settlement this fall. The technical services is available to us if we have need of it. If we pay just what the current balance is, then we're at zero and we're starting to run the negative again from this point on. So, Lau will carry over into 2013 anything that we don't spend of this balance. Traditionally, we've carried balances with Lau in the black. This year, this bill came as kind of a surprise, but it's, we're in the hole, we need to pay it.
Does this also include bringing in to run your W-2s and updating your tax charts and everything for 2013?
I'm not sure that it does on this. I'm not certain exactly what this numbers were.
I just didn't, because it said installation of the software, I didn't know if that was to
I'm
get you
not
up
sure.
and running for 2013 on your payroll.
I don't know.
It may carry over, there may be a balance carry over in January, and then
And that would-
it will cover that training.
So if you appropriate 25,000 tonight, that all goes to Lau. If you can't pay 17,000, say, bill us for December, and we'll start spending another 5. Why would you want to credit? You're paying in advance for a service you haven't received.
Just because we've always done.
I mean, if you're talking about weaning yourself away from Lau, and now you're gonna have an $8,000 credit with them. I would just tell them to send you a bill, can't do that.
I believe it might have been up, they carry over credits. Get the money back, that's cash for them to operate on, we can use it. It needs to be in our coffers, not theirs.
Anybody else?
The only thing is there's no time this year to do this appropriation.
And there's no guarantee of how much use we'll have, $1,000 or $5,000 worth of
But the thing
phone calls
is,
or whatever.
if we go ahead and appropriate the 25,000, pay the 17,108 that's due, and then at the end of the year, if you've used them, they give you a bill and we cover it and pay it. And then it's paid out of this money. And it's paid with a bill that has the right amount of hours charged on.
We don't have any inkling on how much we might use in 6 weeks.
No,
I don't know, I know changing over,
chart of accounts is a daunting.
this chart of accounts, they've been doing this for 3 years, working on it, and then they give the county, this is their last year to get it done. It's been crazy.
We normally appropriate 15, 16,000. We're gonna have an extra 8.
Maybe we should put the 17,000 in the loud line and the remaining in contracted services.
Is that how we advertise it? Does it matter?
Well, we just advertised it in the 30,000 series. Should have been, other services and charges. And that's all services and charges. It's a 30,000 series, so it shouldn't matter.
You can put it where?
Split it. Go ahead and appropriate the $17,000 into the LAO line, since they have their own line, and we know that that bill is due. That amount of money is due, so we're not in a prepaid situation. And then the rest of it, put in contracted services.
But why would we run it, move it from those lines? I mean, you just don't pay it. You just don't pay it, and you encumber it out of the line that it should be out of our line. All you would have permission to do, I mean, out of 25,000, all you'd want to do is pay what's due. And then the rest of that should sit in that line until the end of the year.
There is no contract in IT.
Well, I wanted to address the topic, the issue brought up by Ken, and that is, he asked if the $25,000 was going to be paid to LAO for a prepaid situation, and we don't want it to appear that that's what this is. It's just putting money out there for them. In a prepay, there's a bucket of money for them to swipe from for future expenses.
Well, in the beginning of the year,
Because we're really not supposed to do that.
in the beginning of the year with Loud Technical Services, we had the 15,604.
They do.
Do they bill us 15,604 in January? We pay
They
it?
bill half of their services.
Half. So we're gonna pay them 7,500 or so, twice during the year. I don't know why we would even consider paying them 25,000 in November if we don't owe it. So either we appropriate the 17, whatever it is, to cover the bill and deal with the remainder in 13, or you put X amount in there and it stays in the line. It's just like the gas bill, we're not gonna pay it until it comes due.
And it won't be encumbered unless you have an invoice.
Right. I would think, especially at the commissioner's level, why would we pay a bill that we haven't received services or where that's not due?
So we'll want to ask them for a new invoice.
We should have
Well, I
one.
think we should be updated differently on this matter for the next meeting.
All right, so is there a motion on the LAO bill?
I'll make a motion to appropriate 25,000 into the IT location in the general fund into the LAO account.
Well, if we appropriate it, why don't we look at it like a $20,000 number? If we appropriate 25, then we're gonna shuffle it around again. We're gonna come in here in December, and the phone bill won't be this or something, we're gonna take it and move it. So, do we wanna do 25?
I'm comfortable with 20.
Well, we know Greg's gonna have another bill. This is for services that they've done. He's gonna have, we know he's gonna have things that's gotta be done between now and the end of the year. So he's gonna get charged for those. So that's why I say, you can push in there, he's only gonna spend out of it what he's gonna have an invoice for.
We just put 3,000 of brand new money in there for something we've never had. So, I mean, we've already got extra built in. I was thinking 20.
20 is better than nothing, so.
It's not seconded.
I mean, if LAO ends up, if the technical services are in the negative at the end of December, then it will deplete the contract for 2013. I'll rescind my motion. I'll make a new motion to appropriate $20,000 the general fund in the Lao account line.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any final things we want to bring up? I do want to mention, Greg, we are going to, at our December meeting, we'll have we've got a company coming in. The council approved an additional amount of money for the IT for contracted services. I think it was 12 or 15. And so there'll be a company comes in on the agenda and just share our range for them to come in, share what they can do for us, possibilities. I'll accept the motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
What did you guys put in the IT budget for telephone, or in the council's budget now, or others' budget for telephone next year? Do you remember, it's been 20,000?
21,000, I believe is what they said.
Okay.
I think it was 21,000.
There's a couple of things in that FOMA, and I don't want to hold up time, but John, sometimes I want to talk to you because I went back and looked at the ledger from last year, and what we were paying on that hotline was $300, and this year we're paying $500 and some every month.
The crime hotline is my whole phone system over there.
Oh.
That's what it comes, the
I
bill
thought, why
comes
did
under.
that bill go up $200?
No. That's,
All the phones.
we talked about, Jay and I talked about that the other
But it
day.
is true, Beth, that all the sheriff's phones went up by $200 a month.
I mean, we didn't budget that way, so I'm sure that's one of the
But
reasons where.
the reason I
where
ask is
it's
because
a mess
in
there.
2010, it was budgeted 20, and you went to 26. In 2011, you budgeted 20, and it's 28. In 2012, I mean, each year, it's only been budgeted 20, and it's way over. So I didn't know if it was presented to you for 13 that you needed a lot more. So now you're telling me it's only 21, it won't be that.
When we do the budget, we can only work with the data we have.
It's given to you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.